naturally hope that as much good can be done for the kingdom if we're just quiet and agreeable in our culture and we're friendly, and if we avoid confrontation and debate, the same good can be done for the kingdom. We don't need to get up and give these diatribes and these denunciations. Just preach what you believe, I've heard many times. Just preach what you believe and don't pull down other people's beliefs. It's unbecoming. You preach what you believe. Don't tell everybody that what they believe is stupid. But what I believe is that what they believe is stupid. So I will. We must preach not just what we believe, but also what we don't believe. If we were to tear out the books of the Bible, or at least just the New Testament, if we were to tear out of that book, out of that New Testament, all of the books that were polemic in very nature, not just that it has some bits where he's arguing, but that the whole point of the letter is, you hold this idea, or some of the heretics are teaching this idea, allow me to dismantle it logically and reasonably line by line. If we were to remove every book of the New Testament that had that aim and goal in it, we would be left with very, very few. The New Testament, in fact, the Bible as a whole, is a polemical work of God. God has not designed the world or the advance of the kingdom in such a way that we can only ever be doing what feels positive. As by way of analogy, just as the first man after the fall, he was cursed and so was the ground. It was impossible from that point on for him to ever gain fruit, to ever plant wheat and gain bread. It was impossible for him to continually live from the fruit of the ground without blood, sweat, and tears. The sweat of his brow was that by which he would gain a living. And so it is even in this new kingdom, in this new covenant, it's still the same. That we cannot, without blood, sweat, and tears of spiritual nature, without fighting against what is put up against Christ, we cannot build. We cannot gain that which is spiritual fruit. Spurgeon had a magazine that was called The Sword and the Trowel. He took that from the imagery of Nehemiah back in the Old Testament, when he went back to his homeland of Jerusalem and sought to build the wall around the holy city. He commanded that his men would work both with a sword in one hand and a trowel in the other. That they would be building with one hand positively, they would be doing the good work, but they were not naive. They were not silly 21st century evangelicals who just wanted to do the positive stuff, because they had enemies. They had real, living, breathing animosity towards their enemies and enemies towards them. And so their enemies would come, they would break it down. They would try and kill them, as we have been warned that the devil is a prowling lion. Do not think you can only build positively. Yes, hold your trowel. Lay brick upon brick and work to build, but hold in your other hand the sword, the spear, the javelin, so that you might be able to fight off those enemies that come to destroy the work. Of course, the Christian religion is a polemical religion in that we believe things and we are called to defend those things. This really applies, as we think as a church, this applies in general and in particulars. So some particular applications of this as we look at the life of the Apostle Paul will be things like we will hold a debate. We will do Bible studies where we are saying what we believe and what other iterations of Christianity or other cults and what other religions, what they believe and how we ought to be able to answer them. We'll learn our apologetics, and we'll learn how to answer people as they ask questions of the faith. We'll learn how to shoot out other people's worldviews to bring them to the Lord Jesus Christ. We'll do those things. That's the particulars. How does this look? We preach with an engaging, polemical bent. We hold debates. We do our studies. We learn our apologetics. But it's also just in the general. In the whole stance and posture of the church, she ought to be militaristic in her worldview. She ought to be leaning and have a bent about her in a local church and the global church. We ought to look and feel polemical in our love.